San Diego Police Chief William Lansdowne says he does not support an outside oversight monitor of the department's officer misconduct problems because of the high cost. Instead, he asked for 2 bids for independent audits. Here to talk about the effectiveness of audits is attorney and SDSU Public Affairs Professor Joshua Channon. Welcome to Evening Edition.
Thank you.
Now, Joshua, several big cities have conducted similar audits like the one that Chief Lansdowne is interested in having happen here. What does this type of audit actually entail?
The purpose of the audit is to get an accounting of the problem. And so it involves experts coming in, police experts, experts in the law, to evaluate what the department's policies are, to evaluate the way that the community feels about these problems. So they'll interview community members, community stakeholders. They'll go through in-depth files of the police department and really take their time accounting for potential problems.
And will they make recommendations?
Usually they do. Usually at the end of a report that's mandated by the terms of the contract, they'll say, here are the 10 things that we think that you guys can do to improve things in San Diego.
There is one in particular that the chief is interested in, and if you could just briefly tell us what it's about in Las Vegas.
Sure. So in Las Vegas, the Las Vegas Police Department had a problem with use of force, and they arranged with the Department of Justice to together evaluate the problems in the department that were resulting in these numerous cases of excessive force. And so together they conducted an audit, in effect, and put together a plan for how to address the problem.
And that's the one I know that the chief is interested in. Now, do these types of audits actually have a measurable reform? Are you able to see reform?
It totally depends on the nature of the audit itself. The devil is in the details. Some of them can be built with teeth. You know, there's one in Philadelphia that's ongoing where the Department of Justice has a stake in the outcome and has threatened the Philadelphia Police Department with coming in and installing an outside monitor if, in fact, the police department doesn't make the changes that were stipulated in the agreement.
Let's talk about this independent or outside monitor. The chief said he's not at a point, because of the cost, he thinks it'll be about $1.7 million to oversee the department. How would this monitor work here, and do you think it would be more effective than an audit?
The question that I have about the audit is what you alluded to earlier. What happens after the assessment has been made? There is no link necessarily between an audit and reform. I think what the independent monitor would do is put pressure on the department to make dramatic changes that they wouldn't otherwise make. So typically it works that after conducting an audit of their own, the independent monitors would establish a protocol over the course of 5 to 7 years and monitor the process of implementing these changes. And in doing so, they would take significant authority away from the chief. And I think that in addition to the cost, my sense is that's what he could be balking at.
From your experience, do you think that what we're seeing here in the San Diego Police Department, and again, even dating back to 2011, do you think it's just a few bad apples, as the chief suggested, or do you think it could be more systemic?
My sense, and I have to say, as a caveat, I don't have any inside knowledge. I'm reading the reports like everybody else is. But my sense is that when you see these many incidents come to light, the problems are systemic. The problems are organizational.
What other options are there out there for police departments besides the audit and the oversight committee?
I'm sure that the chief would favor keeping it in-house, doing it themselves. And that is really the third option that I see. So credit to him for moving past that and towards the audit. My hope is that they'll move further and install external accountability.
How about the Department of Justice getting involved? Does that typically happen, or is that way down the line?
It is a fairly complex lead-in process that cannot be initiated by private litigation. Chief Lansdowne certainly has the authority to ask the DOJ to come in and evaluate formally. And if they find what's called a pattern or practice of misconduct, then they can begin developing sophisticated reform process.
I see. Well, this certainly puts some things in context. Attorney and Professor Joshua Channon, thank you so much.
My pleasure.